Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here again, and I'm just going to be opining on this recent firestorm that's been going on with regards to Reverend or Pastor Terry Jones, the person who actually just recently actually followed through on his threats to burn a Quran, and immediately following this, we had some blue helmets actually bite the big one over in Afghanistan. I'm going to kick this thing off by just prefacing a few things about my own opinions with regards to Afghanistan. Early on, when we were beginning to formulate our strategic response to the 9/11 attacks, I was a little bit skeptical, but I nonetheless ultimately assumed that we were doing the right thing when we invaded that country, because I was laboring under the assumption that we were looking for the people that we attacked, that had attacked us. In actuality, what ended up happening was we went into a nice little decade-long adventure in nation building, which is currently bankrupting us along with our insane domestic spending policy. Nonetheless, since about 2003, my attitude has been get the damn troops out of Afghanistan. And I'm not just going to stop there. I'm going to go even further. Pull all of the NATO troops out of there. Every other country should be pulling their troops out of there. The UN should not be in Afghanistan. As far as I'm concerned, that area is for Afghanis alone. Nobody else should be in there. That place is a graveyard, and quite frankly, it's best left up to the graveyard keepers. That's my attitude on it, pure and simple. I have no intention of ever going there, and I don't fancy the idea of my tax money being used to try to turn the place into a tourist attraction, which seems to be what we're going for given how much money we've been sinking into the place. The fact that a bunch of people, UN workers, got killed supposedly in response to this event, this pastor burning this Quran, doesn't faze me one bit, because I have been utterly desensitized to the notion of people getting killed in Afghanistan. I've heard about people dying in Afghanistan so many times that, quite frankly, I'm waiting for something new to happen, like somebody not dying in Afghanistan. So when I see all of this disingenuous outrage over this stuff, I can't help but be perplexed by it. And I'm speaking directly to all of these so-called progressive multicultural types who want to see Mr. Jones thrown in prison, shot, or any of this other vile garbage you've been posting on these various websites in the comments sections. What is so terrible about what Terry Jones did? Apart from maybe the fact that he actually did it in the public where all the news media could see it. Don't most of you people have the attitude that religion is largely a bad thing and is getting in the way of the secular humanistic attempts at trying to culture humanity and make it more civilized? What's the problem with somebody burning a Quran? I think I know what the actual problem is with this, though, but I wanted to throw the question out to you, and I want to see if some of you have a different answer than the one that I think you're going to give. And I think that the reason why Mr. Jones is being the subject of so much hate is because he's a Christian. If Richard Dawkins had done this, if some of the other, Dan Barker, one of these other morons out there had done this, everybody would be, for the most part, peachy keen. There'd be a few politically correct pansies out there crying about it, but a lot of the people that are opining on Mox News's channel and all of these other channels that I used to be subscribed to until today, it just wouldn't be an issue if it was one of them. Because they burn the Quran in their own way every time they open their mouths. They say things that is utterly offensive to Islam, and they basically apostatize the faith. The thing that's a little bit peculiar about Islam is that they view their holy texts as being a sort of sacramental relic, and thus every time somebody desecrates not the word, so to speak, but the actual pages, so to speak, and the actual object that is the Quran, then all of a sudden it's a great outrage. This sort of feeds into the notion that people in the Middle East are, in general, more superstitious than us in the West, be us theistic or atheistic or whatever the heck label you want to put people under. At the end of the day, the reasons for everybody's outrage on all of this is purely synthetic. It's something of our own creation, and I personally find it very hypocritical. Now, I understand people who want a more rational society not going for people like Terry Jones. I personally think that Terry Jones is a bit out there too. But, I don't really see a problem with burning a book provided that you paid for it and it's your property. It's just as valid a method of speech as burning a flag. You think that nobody's going to print another Quran as a result of this, and eventually we're going to lose a portion of history because of this happening? No. It's a symbolic gesture. It is a species of speech. Where are all of these so-called pro-free speech liberals? I'll tell you where they are right now. They're busy working to try to redefine the meaning of the concept of freedom of speech so that they can attack this guy. That's what they're doing. You look at the posts on these various websites right now, things like, it is not freedom of speech to yell fire in a crowded room. First off, I don't buy that argument to begin with, that yelling fire in a crowded theater nonsense. That was an argument that was actually used by a judge when he was condemning people for protesting against World War I. And for those with any knowledge whatsoever as to the way things were back then, Woodrow Wilson had the entire country under lockdown, and he was throwing people in prison for exercising their First Amendment rights. People like to think, America is this great place where everybody can do and say whatever they want. Bullshit. Our freedoms, sad as it may seem, is contingent upon the caprices of the people that hold power right now. Furthermore, the people that hold power right now have greater latitude with these caprices when we have conflicts like these going on overseas. So my advice to all of you so-called progressive types that are worried that liberty is being threatened by poor little hayseed Terry Jones with his Quran burning crew, you ought to focus your energy a little bit more on something that actually matters, such as trying to get our people out of these countries. Because, contrary to what you may think, the people in the Middle East, by and large, do not think the way you do not subscribe to the same form of ethics as you do, and if given the opportunity, they'd probably chop your head off just for believing what you believe. So stick that in your bong and smoke it. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.